大家好，欢迎来到雅思阅读原文提前读系列。这里的文章和剑桥真题里的文章不同，在这个系列中，你会提前读到现在考试中还有很高几率遇到的文章，提前读过文章，对这些文章有一定的了解。当你在考试中遇到时，会极大的帮助到你的速度和做题准确度。那我们现在开始吧。
The Paleobiology Database. Are we now living through the sixth extinction as our own activities destroy ecosystems and wipe out diversity? That's the doomsday scenario painted by many ecologists, and they may well be right. The trouble is we don't know for sure because we don't have a clear picture of how life changes between extinction events or what has happened in previous episodes. We don't even know how many species are alive today, let alone the rate at which they are becoming extinct. A new project aims to fill some of the gaps. The Paleobiology Database aspires to be an online repository of information about every fossil ever dug up. It is a huge undertaking that has been described as biodiversity's equivalent of the Human Genome Project. Its organizers hope that by recording the history of biodiversity they will gain an insight into how environmental changes have shaped life on Earth in the past and how they might do so in the future. The database may even indicate whether life can rebound no matter what we throw at it, or whether a human-induced extinction could be without parallel, changing the rules that have applied throughout the rest of the planet's history. But already the project is attracting harsh criticism. Some experts believe it to be seriously flawed. They point out that a database is only as good as the data fed into it, and that even if all the current fossil finds were catalogued, they would provide an incomplete inventory of life because we are far from discovering every fossilized species. They say that researchers should get up from their computers and get back into the dirt to dip up new fossils. Others are more skeptical still, arguing that we can never get the full pictures because the fossil record is riddled with holes and biases. Fans of the Paleobiology Database acknowledge that the fossil record will always be incomplete. But they see value in looking for global patterns that show relative changes in biodiversity. The fossil record is the best tool we have for understanding how diversity and extinction work in normal times, says John Alroy from the National Center for Ecological Analysis and Synthesis in Santa Barbara. Having a background extinction estimate gives us a benchmark for understanding the mass extinction that's currently underway. It allows us to say just how bad it is in relative terms. To this end, the Paleobiology Database aims to be the most thorough attempt yet to come up with good global diversity curves. Every day between 10 and 15 scientists around the world add information about fossil finds to the database. Since it got up and began running in 1998, scientists have entered almost 340,000 specimens, ranging from plants to whales to insects to dinosaurs to sea urchins. Overall totals are updated hourly at www.paleod.org. Anyone can download data from the public part of the site and play with the numbers to their heart's content. Already, the database has thrown up some surprising results. Looking at the big picture, Alroy and his colleagues believe they have found evidence that biodiversity reached a plateau long ago, contrary to the received wisdom that species numbers have increased continuously between extinction events. The traditional view is that diversity has gone up and up and up, he says. Our research is showing that diversity limits were approached many tens of millions of years before the dinosaurs evolved, much less suffered extinction. This suggests that only a certain number of species can live on Earth at a time, filling a prescribed number of niches like spaces in a multi-story car park. Once it's full, no more new species can squeeze in. Until extinctions free up new spaces or something rare and catastrophic adds a new floor to the car park. Alroy has also used the database to reassess the accuracy of species names. His findings suggest that irregularities in classification inflate the overall number of species in the fossil record by between 32 and 44%. Single species often end up with several names, he says, due to misidentification or poor communication between taxonomists in different countries. Repetition like this can distort diversity curves. If you have really bad taxonomy in one short interval, it will look like a diversity spike, a big diversification followed by a big extinction when all that has happened. That of the 4,861 North American fossil mammal species cataloged in the database, between 24 and 31% is a change in the quality of name, says Alroy. For example, his statistical analysis will eventually prove to be duplicates. Of course, the fossil record is undeniably patchy. Some places and times have left behind more fossil-filled rocks than others. Some have been sampled more thoroughly. And certain kinds of creatures, those with hard parts that lived in oceans, for example, are more likely to leave a record behind, while others, like jellyfish, will always remain a mystery. Alroy has also tried to account for this. He estimates, for example, that only 41% of North American mammals that have ever lived are known from fossils, and he suspects that a similar proportion of fossils are missing from other groups, such as fungi and insects. Not everyone is impressed with such mathematical wizardry. Jonathan Audrain from the University of Iowa in Iowa City points out that statistical wrangling has been known to create mass extinctions where none occurred. It is easy to misinterpret data. For example, changes in sea level or inconsistent sampling methods can mimic major changes in biodiversity. Indeed, a recent and thorough examination of the literature on marine bivalve fossils has convinced David Jablonski from the University of Chicago and his colleagues that their diversity has increased steadily over the past 5 million years. With an inventory of all living species, ecologists could start to put the current biodiversity crisis in historical perspective. Although creating such a list would be tasked to rival even the Paleobiology Database, it is exactly what the San Francisco-based All Species Foundation hopes to achieve in the next 25 years. The effort is essential, says Harvard biologist Edward O. Wilson, who is alarmed by current rates of extinction. There is a crisis. We've begun to measure it, and it's very high, Wilson says. We need this kind of information in much more detail to protect all of biodiversity, not just ones we know well. Let the counting continue.
恭喜你体验完了一篇考试可能遇到的文章。如果你喜欢这个系列，请订阅并点击小铃铛，我会周期性的更新这个系列。我们的网课有超级的折扣，单科只需要18块99啊，全科才要49块98，而且全部都是无限制的播放。OK， 没有30天，没有90天，无限制的播放。已经有好几百的同学学习过了，所以千载难逢的机会，如果你正在备考雅思，或者你正准备要备考雅思的话，不要再犹豫，点击下方链接，现在呢就学起来。